Hello，你好，welcome back，欢迎回来 to Tattooed Thursday with Johnny Tiger. Yeah, I know, supposed to be Wisdom Wednesday, but I was so tired and hungry when I got home from work, and we ate, and then I laid down and fell asleep, and I woke up this morning with that nagging feeling that I've forgotten something, and then I thought, oh yeah, darn it, I forgot to make Wisdom Wednesday. Oh, speaking of forgetting, remembering, today is Veterans Day in the United States and Remembrance Day here in Canada. A day where we celebrate our war heroes and remember the sacrifices they've made. Now, growing up in Taiwan, a lot of us don't have that special sense of appreciation for people who've been in the military. Reason being, if you grow up in Taiwan, it's kind of mandatory for you to go in the military. So, you get people walking on the street and you're like, I've been in the military. Yeah, so what? I was in the military too. So it's like everybody there has been in the military. Everyone can technically classify as old soldiers. Um, so that's why we don't feel quite the same as toward our military in Taiwan. Uh, it's just a chore that the government puts you through, and uh, in general, to a lot of people, it's just a big uh, waste of time and mess up their career, mess up their love and relationship and college and all that stuff. Uh, we'll probably have a future episode where I talk more about all the things that surrounding um, mandatory uh, militarization and enlisting and stuff like that. But that is not what we're going to talk about today. As you can see from the title of the video, I want to talk about tattoos. And that is sort of, at one point or another, military related as well. Uh, though the relationship is a little bit tenuous at best, but it's still related. So I feel that it is a fitting topic for today. Let's begin by, about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago. I remember this news that kind of made me laugh and make me think that there is really such a thing as karma. The story goes that in the 90s, a big time gangster in Japan, after committing some very horrendous murder, and uh, was able to make a lot of money. And I don't quite remember what he did, but I think he murdered his own gang leader and the gang leader's family, something like that, and took all the money for himself. So after committing this horrific crime, he was wanted, like pretty much dead or alive, by the police in Japan. So this guy, taking all the money he's made, uh, got himself smuggled to Thailand and got himself a new passport, a new house, a new wife, a new life, basically. He set himself up as a very rich guy in Thailand. And many people, himself especially, thought that was it. No one knew him in Thailand. Everyone just knew this was a very rich guy with a very beautiful house, very beautiful wife, and beautiful children. And no one would be able to identify him because he also spent a lot of money for some. cosmetic changes to his face. I grew a beard, grew out his hair, and I got some facelift or whatever surgery he needed. In Thailand, it's like in Korea. Whatever you want done to your body, you have the money, they'll do it. Including sex change, by the way. So this big time gangster, this wanted murderer, lived in peace in Thailand until the age of 78, and then suddenly, one day, he was arrested by the Thai police, deported back to Japan to face the death penalty. In the end, how they were able to catch him was a coincidence. You see, people in Japan, especially people from the darker side of this society, gangsters especially, they have this big tattoo culture. Uh, and it's very specific. It's not like nowadays you can go and get any kind of tattoo anywhere you want. You can, if you want a dragon, you can get a dragon. You want a phoenix, you can get a phoenix. No, uh, Japanese gang culture, which, by the way, was practiced in Taiwan as well. When Japanese people occupied Taiwan, they brought a whole tattoo underworld culture over. So in Taiwan, it's basically the same. You can't just get tattoo, like whatever kind of tattoo you want. You have to be very careful with that stuff. Depending on your rank in the game, are you a newbie? Are you a leg breaker? Are you a hacker? Are you a driver? There are different tattoo is available to you. You cannot, for example, be a newbie and then go and get a dragon tattooed across your chest. Dragons are reserved for the leaders and the higher, really high-ranking people in the game. You cannot get a god image tattooed on your body if you are not that rank. So uh, every time you get promoted in the game, more tattoo images are become okay for you to use. In addition to that, Japanese game culture are very big on tattooing their achievement, accomplishment. I killed blah 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 on this day. They tattoo that on their left arm, inside of their left wrist, for example. I don't know. This is just for example, okay? And then I robbed six national banks on the state, blah blah blah, tattooed on the inside of left ankle. Gradually, as they commit more crime, as they do more notorious deeds, their body start to fill up with tattoos, and these are like personal records. I am this badass. You know, I take off my shirt, and you can see everything I've done. It's right here. You can go try to verify it. I'm not going to deny it. This is how badass I am. That's the mentality they have. Yeah, sounds a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? Because when you get arrested by police, they don't even have to look into the computer file. They can just read from your tattoos. But that's how arrogant the gangsters in Japan, and like I said, in Taiwan, have been. So this big time gangster, after uh, escaping to Thailand, well, see, here's the thing about Thailand. Thailand is really, really hot. Uh, there's no actual winter in Thailand. Uh, all four seasons basically feel like summer. It's really hot over there. So this guy liked to walk around topless or at the most in tank top, showing off his whole body, arms, neck, face, head, full of tattoos because it scared the local people. uh, and make everyone leave him alone. People thought, whoa, this guy's really scary. He has so many tattoos. Well, in the beginning, that wasn't a big deal. When he first went to Thailand, it was in the 90s. By the time he was 78, uh, iPhone, cell phone camera became very popular. So one day, this is how it went down. One day when he was out in the yard, he was topless, and yeah, I know the 78-year-old hanging around topless is a little bit, yeah. Anyway, we're not going to judge, uh, whatever. Uh, he was in his yard, topless, and some neighborhood teenager, saw all the intricate tattoos on him, and they thought, oh, this is so cool. Wow, there's a guy that every inch of his skin is tattooed. Took a picture on their phone, uploaded to the internet. That picture, that body tattoo shot, that got shared and liked over 30,000 times before a police detective in Japan just happened to be surfing the internet after work one day and came across this picture was labeled "The Tattooed Man of Thailand." And he took one look. Now, people in Thailand couldn't read the words on this guy's tattoo because they were in Japanese, of course. So they just thought it's a really cool design. This Japanese detective saw the tattoo, immediately was able to read from these tattoos all the things this guy had done. And then he went and pulled some old files, found an old picture of this wanted criminal. The time is now 5 p.m. And compared the tattoos from the picture to the picture on the internet, and it was a match. And from there, all it took was one quick phone call to the Thai police, and this guy was deported back to Japan to face justice after having escaped for so many years. Ah, yeah. He got screwed by his own tattoos. How ironic is that? Now, tattoos is always one of those very controversial topics, even though when you think about it, it's kind of silly. Tattoo, like, I want to put some picture on my own skin. Why is it that I would get judged and second guessed by people? This should have nothing to do with anybody, right? But tattoo just happened to be one of those things that has a lot of baggage attached to it. Johnny Tiger, once upon a time, wanted to get a tattoo. Uh, I thought it would be super cool since I do so much fighting and punching and stuff like that. I wanted to get matching like phrases or words on my left fist and right fist. Maybe my left fist would have a lightning, uh, and then my right fist would be thunder, or maybe my left fist can be hammer and my right fist can be sickle, or my right fist can be shield and my left fist can be sword, something like that. I want something really like symbolic like that. But I quickly had idea vetoed because while chatting to my employer at the time, I mentioned it. A good thing I did because she said to me, she said, if you get tattooed, then don't bother coming back to work. We can't have someone who look like a thug here. So that was the end of that. I suddenly realized that if I did go ahead to get tattoos, it may have very unpleasant consequences with regarding to careers available to me. Now, we've been talking about tattoo culture in Japan, how their gangs have such complicated and elaborate rules and regulations around tattoo. But Japanese people did not invent tattoos. They took the tattoo culture just like they took a lot of other part of their culture, sword, kimono, etc., from China during the Tang Dynasty. Because back in the Tang Dynasty, tattoo was at first a really big thing in China. Tang Dynasty was a very liberal dynasty in Chinese history. There's a lot of money being made, a lot of art being produced. People back then were getting into new kinds of music, new kind of expression, new kind of poetry, and new kind of body art. The tattoos became extremely popular that almost every commoner, nobleman, royalty wanted some kind of tattoo on them. Unfortunately, like so often is the case, the tattoo culture came to a rather unpleasant end in the Tang Dynasty, because of a few bad apples. The story goes that in the royal city in during the time of the Tang Wuzheng, which means the martial king of Tang Dynasty, there was a gang of thugs that decided they could be super badass, so they shaved their head and scarred themselves through some ritual scarring, and then they tattooed every inch of their skin, uh, and they started to basically do bad things, like anything that was illegal, anything that was bad. They would go out on the street, push push over old people, uh, kick people's dogs, and bully children, and rob street side vendors, and uh, sexually harass women. Basically anything that was evil that these guys would do. And they walk around topless all the time with their entire body of tattoos showing, just to show everybody how nasty, how evil they were, and that nothing anyone could do to them. Well, they finally did so much bad things that the martial emperor himself heard about these guys. So the martial emperor said, they dare to do this in my royal capital. This cannot be tolerated. So in response, the emperor had one of the most hard-lined, hardcore, unreasonable magistrate brought in from one of the northern provinces. Upon arrival, this magistrate, upon hearing what these guys had been doing, drafted a new law. And the new law said anyone with shaved head and tattoos will be executed on the spot without a trial. On the first day, when this law was passed, about 30 people were executed without trial. 30 people. All it took was shaved head, tattoos. Good enough for the magistrate. He didn't even bother to research or investigate who was a gangster and who wasn't a gangster. And like I said, back then in Tang Dynasty, almost everyone wanted a tattoo. So this created a big fear uh, throughout the nation. The people with tattoo quickly went out of their way to get tattoo removal, just so they wouldn't get executed. And now you may say, wow, they had tattoo removal back then already? Even nowadays, tattoo removal is not all that effective. Yes, they did. And that's why I say Chinese people had tattoo down to an art, even way back Tang Dynasty, uh, which, by the way, it's about 1500 years ago. How did they remove tattoos? Well, they take this big piece of metal and heat it up until it's red hot, and wherever you have the tattoo, they press the metal to your skin, and then you see a puff of smoke and you smell the smell of burning flesh, and then they let you heal, and then your burn will get infected or scab over or uh, rot, and finally, after all that torture, that piece of flesh heal. Well, it either heal or you die of blood poison. Uh, but if it heal, then no one can tell you had a tattoo there. It's just a big nasty burn mark. Okay? So that's when the whole tattoo thing came to a crushing, sad halt for Chinese people. From that day on, from the new law by this magistrate, tattoo became a bad thing. Anyone who was to be tattooed was marked immediately as a criminal. But tattoo didn't start with the Tang Dynasty. Tang Dynasty was a dynasty that really, at first, really popularized tattoo. But if we want to look at tattoo, when did it really start in China? We can go way back to 2 or 3,000 years ago. 2 or 3,000 years ago. Uh, Tattoos were mostly done with the images of deities. Uh, People back then didn't do dragons or comic book characters or uh, thunder and lightning. People back then would tattoo Buddha or Jade Emperor on them. These tattoos were not for good looking, for not for fashion. This is because back then people believed that if you have the gods tattooed to your skin, that means that God is with you all the time. You'll get more protection from the God. So it was a very tribal, very pagan kind of belief that had people tattoo their deity onto their skin in the very beginning. And most of these were in the southeast, southwestern, southern regions of China, where there was not a lot of people. There was a lot of mountains and marshes and swamps and deep lakes, vast river, and a lot of uh, primordial old forest and jungle, which means translation, a lot of snakes, a lot of dangerous animal, a lot of ways for a person to die. So whenever people travel to the southern part, through the southern part of China, they tattoo their god to their skin to add another layer of luck and protection. The tattoos, especially used by the tribal warriors in these regions in the southern China, back so many thousand years ago, were also a way of camouflage because they didn't wear a lot of clothes back then. And you can just imagine this in a dark rainforest, in a dark jungle where everything is dark green, black, brown. Suddenly you see some uh, white Chinaman wandering through trying to sneak up on his opponent. Yeah, that wouldn't work really good, right? I mean, most of you will say, well, Chinese people are not really white. Well, pale. Yeah, a lot of Chinese people are, comparing to many other Asians, a little bit more on the pale side. Um, so to prevent being spotted by their opponents that easily, native uh, southern China warriors would cover themselves with tattoos that were green and brown and black so they can blend in with the trees and the stones and the rock and the mud. So just think of that. Even way back 2 or 3 thousand years ago, Chinese tribal warriors knew tactics used by special forces soldiers. Another group of people that first started using tattoo in this very protective, defensive way was the pearl hunters, the pearl seekers in Malaysia, in Thailand, and yes, in southeastern China, close to the ocean. These were specialized divers that would go into the ocean. Back then, there's no diving gear. Back then, there's no tank. There's no sinker. There's no diving suit. Basically, you just strip naked and swim down to the bottom of the ocean. Their job was to find the biggest seashells, biggest oysters, biggest clams, bring them back to shore, hoping to find a lot of pearls. These pearl divers or pearl hunters always were covered from head to foot in scale-like tattoos. So when you see them on shore, they look like fishmen or fishwomen. They look like mermaids uh, that just came out of the sea. The function of the scales, of course, is obvious. When you're down in the deep sea, you got to worry about other fish trying to attack you. So if you look like one of them, then maybe there's less of a chance for that to happen. At least that was how they figured it back then. Uh, it was said that in these tattoos there were a lot of images of the sea gods, sea nymphs, uh, dragon gods of the sea, and those were supposed to give them an extra layer of protection from being attacked by sharks and other sea creatures as well. So as you see, in the very beginning, thousands of years ago, Chinese people were already getting tattoos, but it was in very specialized professions. Uh, Warriors and hunters and trackers and pearl divers. And then in Tang Dynasty, tattoos became artistic before brutally being snuffed out by a hardcore magistrate who wanted to put, get rid of the gangsters in the city. Moving forward to Song Dynasty, which was right after Tang Dynasty, by the way, just in case you're not up to date in the order of Chinese imperial dynasties. Song Dynasty is right after Tang Dynasties. Um, in some dynasties, tattoos were reserved mostly for soldiers and prisoners. If you committed a minor crime in Song Dynasty, they will tattoo your crime and your sentence behind your ear or on the nape of your neck, where your hair or your clothes can hide it. That is in the case of minor crime. For example, if you have stolen an apple, uh, they will tattoo apple thief, fined $200 behind your ear or at the nape of your neck. Uh, if your crime is serious, then they're a lot more mean about it. They will tattoo it directly onto your forehead or right on the cheek, on the side of your face. Uh, many examples of that. People who have done murder, people who have been tried and found treason, they will have a big tattoo on their face that said, traitor, blah, 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 betrayed his emperor, sentenced to 40 years in the royal army, something like that. This, of course, is a way for everyone to identify who are the criminals, but also as a way to prevent you from uh, escaping and trying to uh, blend back into society with that tattoo on your face. The only way you can get rid of it is to, well, take that red hot piece of metal and burn your face and disfigure yourself, which most people wouldn't want to do. And of course, tattoos were for the soldiers because they did not want people to desert the army. So once you join the soldiers, you get some kind of tattoo, and tattoos for the soldiers would say something nicer, like "I fight for my country," or "I was born to fight the northern barbarians," or "I serve the emperor," something like that. Some kind of slogan they will get tattooed, mostly on their back or across their chest. Uh, Even highly ranking generals will sometimes display these tattoos. Fast forward to Ming Dynasty. The first emperor of the Ming Dynasty was a very, very conservative person who believed that every inch of your skin and hair and body is given to you by your parents. So if you go out of your way to cut your hair or get a tattoo or do anything to change the way you look, then you are disrespecting your parents. And if you disrespect your parents, you're not a good person. So the first emperor of the Ming Dynasty put down the rule that anyone who display a tattoo in public will be put to death. It was death penalty. It was counted as treason. Now this is the interesting part. He didn't say you cannot get a tattoo. He just said you cannot display it. If you just want to get one and admire at home, that's fine. Uh, So tattoo became a really, really underground thing in the Ming Dynasty. No one dared to show their tattoo. Uh, when the Manchu people took over China for the last dynasty, the Qing dynasty in China, they kept this tradition of outlawing anything to do with displaying open display of tattoos. This is why, even today, Chinese people are kind of resenting, kind of uh, reserved with regarding to tattoo. They have this idea that tattoo means you're bad people, because for the last 500 years, the last two dynasties, it was very illegal to show anyone your tattoo. It was dangerous to have a tattoo because if you have a tattoo and someone suddenly see it, the public bathhouse, for example, oops, sorry, you just broke the law. You might have to get a death penalty. It's that serious. So that sort of lodged in Chinese people's mind for the last 500 years. This is why tattoo is such a taboo subject for Chinese people even today. Now the same is not for Taiwanese people where I grew up, of course, because like I said, Taiwanese people got their tattoo culture from Japan. But before I leave you today, I want to share this funny little story, the true story. My father, when he was young, he had an image of a phoenix tattooed onto his shoulder. Uh, that was how high a rank he had in the underworld. He was able to get a phoenix. And he did not get it like how we get tattoos nowadays. Nowadays, you get a tattoo in the tattoo parlor. They have tattoo guns and laser printing and all that stuff. It's relatively painless. When my dad got his tattoo, he got it like jailhouse style. One needle at a time. They prick you with a needle, and then they rub the ink in, and prick you with a needle, rub the ink in. Very painful. I got infected multiple times throughout the process. The tattoo took like 4 months, 5 months to complete. It was a very difficult tattoo to get. and he was always very proud of it for his whole life, very proud of it. Anytime he could, he would wear sleeveless shirt or go topless and display his tattoo. Now, when he started to get older, he started to realize that he wanted to change his image. He didn't want a tattoo anymore because he's no longer a gangster, he's no longer involved. So he wanted to erase that part of himself. So he went to get that tattoo removed. My dad lay down on the uh, table and took off his shirt, and the tattoo removal guy came in. And what he said next really pissed my dad off. The tattoo artist that came in to remove his tattoo said to my dad, "Whoa, that is a very nice chicken. Where did you get it?" Anyway, that is my little attempt at a makeup video for Wisdom Wednesday. Don't know if there's any wisdom in it, but hopefully it has been entertaining as usual. Stay tuned, and we'll be looking at another Grandma that Kicked Butt on our Toy Thursday later.